What if I told you that buried within the ancient words of the Bible is a secret so staggering and elusive it shatters what we think we know about humanity's origins, a lineage so righteous, so close to God, that they were called the sons of heaven, and yet they mysteriously vanish from the pages of history without a trace. Imagine a bloodline uniquely appointed to walk with the Creator, people who were more than mere mortals, guardians of divine wisdom, custodians of forgotten knowledge, and perhaps bridges between heaven and earth. Tonight, we plunge into this forgotten legacy and peel away the veils of time that have hidden their story from us all. Before anything else, take a pause. If you've ever wondered about the mysteries of heaven, the unseen wars raging in the spiritual realms, or the moments before humanity's very first breath, like this video, subscribe to Jesus Speaks Today and comment 777 below. Your voice and curiosity aren't just echoes in the void, they're part of this chosen generation seeking truth beyond the surface. Right here, your questions matter, because together, we're about to explore revelations that have challenged saints, scholars, and seekers for centuries. Let's begin our gentle descent into this mystery, still quiet, but with every word, drawing us deeper. In the earliest chapters of Genesis, the Bible lays out two distinct family lines. After the tragedy between Cain and Abel, only two branches remain. Cain's, marked by violence, city building, and restless striving for power, and Seth's, a line anointed by God, stewards of sacred connection, dedicated to preserving communion with the divine. The contrast is startling. While Cain's descendants shape tools of war, become the first musicians, and build the world's first cities, Seth's line is described as the righteous ones, the keepers of spiritual fire. They weren't ordinary people living ordinary lives of faith. The scriptures say, "Then men began to call upon the name of the Lord." But this isn't casual prayer. The ancient Hebrew indicates these were prophetic callings, moments of formal worship and direct contact with God, so intimate and profound it echoes Eden itself. Let's slow down. Feel the weight of these words. Imagine a world not yet dulled by centuries of chaos and forgetfulness. A world where the sacred was as real as breath and prophetic encounters as natural as sunrise. In this era, the sons of Seth walked with God, talked with Him, and lived lives overflowing with meaning, traveling through the stories of their descendants. Enoch, who walked with God and never tasted death, Methuselah, whose life marked prophetic turning, and Noah, the remnant of righteousness who survived the flood. We encounter lifespans and wisdom that defy modern understanding. Their genealogies, carefully etched in scripture, aren't just there by accident. Every name represents a key, a clue woven into humanity's spiritual DNA. If you close your eyes and listen closely, you can almost hear the ancient voices whispering across time, reminding us that something precious was once lost. Seth's line maintained something sacred, a direct channel to the heart of God, a kind of immortality that went beyond years counted. But what became of them? Why do they simply vanish from the records after the flood? How could the most righteous family line maintainers of such power and purity be swallowed up by time as if they never existed at all? This isn't just a question for those who love old stories or hidden mysteries. This is a question about ourselves, about what it means to be truly human, about what we lost, perhaps without ever realizing it. The Bible's silences are sometimes as thunderous as its proclamations, and as we linger in this silence, the mystery turns from a historical curiosity into an ache, a yearning to rediscover the connection, wisdom, and truth that shaped the first chapters of our story. So consider, what Does it mean that a whole lineage of holy ones disappears without explanation? Does this suggest there was an attack? A cosmic plan to disrupt the channel between God and humanity? Are there echoes of this loss in our own restless search for meaning, connection, and truth? The story of Seth's sons, hidden between the lines and shadows of ancient texts, invites us to ask not only what happened, but what could be recovered in our age of longing and distraction. As the questions grow, so does the anticipation for answers. In the next moments and unfolding sections of this journey, prepare yourself for surprises, uncomfortable challenges to familiar stories, and a slow unveiling of truths, both beautiful and unsettling. Because the forgotten sons of Seth, though erased from history's foreground, might just hold the secret to our greatest loss and our hope for restoration. If you're still with me, if your spirit stirs with wonder and longing for more, remember, like, subscribe to Jesus Speaks today, and comment 777 if the mysteries of heaven, spiritual battles, or the origins of our world have ever haunted your heart. This conversation is just beginning. Ready yourself. The journey into the lost lineage and the wisdom of the righteous line will only get deeper from here. Imagine for a moment what it must have felt like to walk in a world where the boundaries between heaven and earth seemed almost transparent, where men and women sensed the nearness of God, and the most sacred knowledge flowed as freely as streams through a garden untouched by time. As we journey deeper into the enigma of the sons of Seth, we uncover a dimension of existence that flickers now only in myth and mystery, yet once was the spiritual birthright of a righteous line entrusted with the very wisdom of creation. When we left off, our hearts were gripped with that unexplained vanishing. How could a people so favored, so close to the divine heart, simply be erased from the stage of history? As the ancient texts whisper their clues, it becomes clear that the mystery is much greater than genealogy. It is about the very fabric of what it means to be human, to remember, to forget, and to long for restoration. Let us quiet ourselves now and recall the first stories handed down through generations. Seth, whose very name means appointed, was seen as a divinely chosen substitute for Abel, a vessel through which the promise of close relationship with the Creator would continue. It is more than coincidence that the origins of worship, of prophecy, of direct calling upon God's holy name are traced back to those earliest generations. In their days, prayer was not ritual or routine. It was a living encounter, a participation in the sacred. But look closer, and the differences between the line of Cain and the descendants of Seth start to tell a troubling tale. Cain's branch became renowned for pioneering new arts, for music, metalwork, for the founding of the world's first cities. On the surface, these are celebrated marks of human progress, creativity, innovation, bold self-expression. But beneath that progress was something else, a movement away from Eden's harmony, an increasing reliance on self, on dominance, on the cleverness of man separated from the wisdom of God. Contrast this with the Sethite line and you begin to see a forgotten way, a spiritual technology, if you will, grounded not in external achievements, but in the cultivation of heart, of character, of the capacity to receive and reveal God's presence. To call upon the Lord was to stand at the threshold between worlds, to act as a bridge between nature and the supernatural. And herein lies the subtle tragedy. For while the world hailed the outward glories of human civilization, what was precious? In the eyes of God, unbroken communion, a lineage of those who truly walked with God, quietly slipped beyond the memory of humanity. The very attributes that should have made Seth's descendants famous throughout the ages instead made them targets for disappearance. their wisdom scattered, their secrets lost in the storm of history. It's at this moment our story begins to shift, not just from what was gained, but to what was irretrievably lost. Consider the names etched in Genesis: Enoch, who walked with God and was not, for God took him. Methuselah, whose lifespan almost brushes the 1,000-year mark, a living testimony to a different kind of human existence. These details are not dry facts, but living echoes, reminders that extraordinary beings once walked the earth, guardians of knowledge and life itself. As you let that realization settle, step lightly into the world of ancient texts and archaeological wonders. Beyond the Hebrew scriptures, Sumerian records, Egyptian carvings, and even the Dead Sea Scrolls hint at a time when beings of wisdom, sometimes called the Seven Sages, sometimes the Netru, sometimes simply the Sons of God, carried a flame of knowledge through generations. They guided civilizations, taught mathematics, mapped the stars, practiced healing arts, and constructed monuments whose mysteries baffle us still. And yet the world changed. Floods came, civilizations fell, and the human story fractured. Sons of Seth, those appointed guardians of direct divine communion, became a memory, and perhaps even a warning. How is it that so many ancient cultures share not just vague echoes, but detailed memories of a golden age, lifespans extending for centuries, divine knowledge handed down, sudden catastrophic loss? Whether we look to the Vedas of India, the legends of Aboriginal Australia, the myths of Greece, or the oral traditions of Native Americas, a consistent refrain returns. Once we walked with the divine. Once we possessed wisdom we no longer understand. Pause a moment and ask yourself, why do these echoes persist? Why does this song, always haunting and always beyond our grasp, linger at the edges of our collective memory? It's as if the spirit of Seth's descendants refuses to be extinguished entirely, a longing within us for the home we lost, for the identity that was shattered, for the knowledge that could heal the deep wounds of our world. Modern science now finds itself brushing against the edges of this mystery. Genetics reveals unexplained bottlenecks in humanity's past, points where the tapestry of life narrowed and then spread again, faint fingerprints of an event that both ended and began something monumental. Spiritual and psychological researchers encounter human capacities, startling memory, radical healing, prodigious mental feats that mirror the impossible stories of the antediluvian righteous. Quantum physicists discover that consciousness, the crown of the ancient sages, might be the very ground of reality, not merely a byproduct, hinting that our ancestors' access to knowledge and power may have stemmed from a union of spirit and matter we barely glimpse today. But as you reflect on all these threads, remember, knowledge, once broken, rarely returns in its original perfection. What the world lost with the sons of Seth was not only a lineage, but a legacy, a way of being human that fused the earthly and the heavenly, that taught us creation was not something to dominate, but a mystery to honor, steward, and love. Today, as we awaken in a world dominated by technology, progress, and the relentless search for something more, the ancient question returns. Did we lose the very thing that made us truly human in our quest for advancement? Did we trade inheritance for ingenuity or for ambition? This is not simply a puzzle for academics or theologians. It is a wound that aches across generations, a yearning for restoration, for a reconnection with that deeper spiritual wisdom, that original vision whispered to Seth's children. As we continue this journey together, let the story draw you in, not as a cold analysis, but as a living invitation. Like, subscribe to Jesus Speaks Today and share your own echoes in the comments below. If you've ever sensed a forgotten greatness quietly stirring inside you, a sense that humanity is meant for more than what our fractured history offers, you are not alone. The journey from loss to rediscovery is one we all share. In the next section, we'll begin to approach the heart of the mystery, how cosmic forces, both visible and invisible, conspired in the fading of the sons of Seth, and what their disappearance reveals about the deepest struggles and hopes of the human soul. Let us now, with reverence and patience, explore the deeper layers of this enigmatic narrative where heaven collides with earth and a cosmic drama unfolds that challenges the very core of our understanding. The story of the sons of Seth is far more than ancient genealogy. It is a portal into the spiritual and genetic fabric of humanity, revealing forces that shaped our past and continue to ripple through our present. The biblical account in Genesis introduces us to a pivotal crisis, the union of the sons of God with the daughters of men. This is no mere allegory or symbolic musing. The Hebrew phrase, sons of God, or Ben Elohim, occurs elsewhere in Scripture as a clear reference to angelic beings, celestial guardians, who stand in the heavenly council. To interpret this as merely human intermarriage betrays the consistent language used across the Old Testament. These otherworldly beings, the angels, nonetheless transgress boundaries set by the Creator, choosing to take human wives, thereby creating a hybrid race known as the Nephilim, fallen ones, possessing both human and celestial traits. This is no small detail or mythic embellishment. The Nephilim are described as mighty men, men of renown, a terrifying fusion that foreshadows layered calamity. Pause and sense the gravity. This act was not random, but a calculated assault on the sacred lineage of Seth. The daughters of men, far from being casual human partners, were the women of Seth's line, the very vessels of righteousness and divine connection. The adversaries sought not only earthly dominion, but spiritual corruption, targeting the gene pool that bore God's blessing, aiming to sever the invisible thread linking heaven and earth. Ancient texts beyond the Bible, particularly the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees, historically revered, yet suppressed in mainstream theology, fill in the gaps. These works tell of 200 angels led by Samjaza and Azazel descending to Mount Hermon, swearing an oath to impart forbidden knowledge, to teach mankind crafts of war, magic, cosmetics and metallurgy, all intoxicating gifts that birthed pride but also chaos. Reflect on why these forbidden gifts mattered. It was not the knowledge itself, but the means by which it was corrupted and wielded, often for selfish gain, disruption and violence, staining the human heart and genetics alike. This corruption, deeply intertwined with the physical, altering human DNA, creating spiritual barriers, obscuring humanity's access to divine wisdom. Consider the implications of such angelic human hybrids. The Nephilim, as part animal, part divine beings, introduced a genetic distortion separating humanity from its original design as God's image bearers. Their presence ushered in a moral and biological decay which the Creator could no longer tolerate, a world spiraling into violence beyond remedy. The consequence? The flood, a divine reset designed not only as judgment, but a mercy mission to purge the corrupted gene pool, preserving the pure lineage through Noah, the last remnant of Seth's untainted descendants. Noah, perfectly blameless in his generation, was not merely moral, but genetically preserved, a lifeboat carrying humanity's potential beyond oblivion. When the waters receded, the conditions that had nurtured the sons of Seth, their longevity, their closeness to God, their extraordinary abilities, were no longer sustained. The world had changed physically, spiritually, even genetically, ushering in a new era of limitation, frailty, and spiritual distance. This transition left humanity with a profound loss, the severing of direct communion with the divine, the dismantling of inherited supernatural abilities, and the scattering of ancient wisdom. What remained was an echo, a fading light struggling to survive in a world that had turned dark. This loss is visible not only in theological texts, but through archaeological and scientific data. The gematria of ages, the extraordinary lifespans documented in Genesis, find echoes in the ancient Sumerian king lists and the traditions of early civilizations long lost to time. Structures like Göbekli Tepe, predating established timelines by thousands of years, hint at the remnants of a civilization deeply connected to heavenly patterns and sacred geometry. Deep within these archaeological remain whispers of a once vibrant culture of knowledge, astronomy, metallurgy, and sacred wisdom that was abruptly disrupted, aligning suspiciously with genetic bottlenecks and cataclysmic climate events. Phenomena Science labels the 8.2 kiloyear event, a massive, climatic upheaval around 6000 BC, paralleling scriptural timelines for the flood. Anthropological studies reveal striking consistencies among worldwide flood myths, all bearing common details: the righteous chosen and preserved, the giants of renown, the catastrophic waters, and the subsequent renewal of human society. These are not isolated legends but cultural resonances of an actual traumatic historical event. Modern science, meanwhile, encounters profound mysteries that reflect ancient capabilities once common among the sons of Seth. Geneticists identify markers for extended lifespans, such as specific alleles and epigenetic traits which could carry the legacy of that lost line. Neurological research uncovers rare individuals with extraordinary cognitive capacities, modern-day echoes of ancient wisdom and supernatural gifts. Even more striking are investigations into consciousness itself. Quantum physics posits that consciousness is not confined to the brain, but interwoven with the fabric of reality. Phenomena such as entanglement and observer effects invite a fresh perspective on ancient accounts of divine knowledge accessed through spiritual communion. Healing miracles, prophetic insights, and unexplained cognitive feats documented in various cultures reflect the residual potential infused within human DNA and spirit. These acts are shadows of the original glory once embodied by the sons of Seth, prompting a tantalizing question. Could these qualities be restored, reawakened, or even surpassed? Yet as this narrative unfolds, we must confront critical objections. Mainstream scholars question the historicity of these accounts, interpreting early Genesis genealogies as mythological or allegorical, dismissing disparate flood stories as cultural coincidences, challenging the scientific feasibility of extended lifespans, and denying the plausibility of angelic physical reproduction. Such critiques are vital in any rigorous investigation, yet they often rest on assumptions about the nature of evidence, limitations of current scientific paradigms, and the scope of spiritual realities. When isolated pieces of the puzzle resist explanation, it is a call to broaden, not narrow, our understanding. Indeed, the synthesis of biblical narrative, archaeological findings, genetic data, cross-cultural myths, and cutting-edge science opens a compelling framework, one where the sons of Seth were a real, distinct lineage endowed with extraordinary spiritual and physical gifts, targeted and ultimately displaced by a cosmic cataclysm born of rebellious angelic incursions. In this light, the flood is not merely a story of wrath, but an act of divine preservation, guarding humanity's spiritual seed from corruption that would have rendered us unrecognizable, non-functional vessels forever separated from God's original design. As we survey the aftermath, humanity's fragmented history, Spiritual confusion, technological regressions, and societal turmoil, we see the consequences of that loss writ large. The sons of Seth represented a benchmark for what it means to be human in the fullest sense, a humanity in harmony with both physical creation and spiritual reality. The challenge today is monumental yet hopeful. Can we reclaim that lost heritage? Can we, through humility, wisdom, and faith, transcend the genetic and spiritual barriers erected in antiquity, re-establishing the covenant of communion with the divine? In the coming section, we will explore the profound implications for our era, the crossroads of technology and spirituality, the promise and peril of genetic and artificial augmentation, and the timeless invitation to recover the destiny written in the bloodline of Seth. Stay with me, dear listener. The path ahead is both sobering and radiant with possibility. Share these reflections, subscribe to Jesus Speaks Today, and offer your spirit to the growing chorus seeking the restoration of humanity's sacred heritage. For what was lost is not gone forever, and what is hidden may yet be revealed. Having traced the profound origins, tragic fall, and far-reaching consequences of the sons of Seth's disappearance, our exploration now turns toward the timeless implications this mystery holds for us today. The story is not only about history, long past, but a living challenge and transformative hope for our future, a challenge to how we understand human potential, divine connection, and the paths we choose in shaping civilization. The loss of the sons of Seth was not merely a numerical decline in righteous individuals, but a qualitative rupture in humanity's very essence. They were the bearers of a divine legacy, long life, spiritual wisdom, prophetic insight, and access to sacred knowledge. Their disappearance left a void, severing humans from direct communion with the Creator and ushering in an era of spiritual obscurity, cultural fragmentation, and technological trial and error. In the wake of this loss, humanity has struggled to regain the wisdom and harmony that once characterized the antediluvian world. The sons of Seth's example shows us that true human enhancement is not found primarily in technological or genetic augmentation, but in the restoration of divine connection through faithful, spiritual relationship. This distinction is critical as we stand at our current crossroads. Today, the echoes of ancient corruption and lost potential reverberate in the accelerating development of technologies such as genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and consciousness-altering tools. These innovations hold tremendous promise for improving human life, curing disease, enhancing intelligence, extending lifespan, but also bear profound risks. If pursued without spiritual foundation and wisdom, they mirror the pre-flood pitfalls, threatening to further alienate humanity from its divine purpose and identity. Genetic engineering, for example, now grants us the ability to edit human DNA with unprecedented precision. This power can alleviate suffering and special human limitations, yet it also poses the danger of altering fundamental aspects of human nature in ways we do not yet fully understand. Just as the fallen angels introduced corrupted knowledge that bred spiritual and genetic ruin, modern gene-editing tools could inadvertently compromise the integrity of our humanity if wielded without deep ethical and spiritual grounding. Similarly, artificial intelligence systems approach and, in some cases, surpass human capabilities in domains central to human dignity, creativity, moral reasoning, relational insight. While AI offers solutions to societal challenges, it may also eclipse uniquely human qualities, risking the loss of what makes us truly human if not accompanied by wisdom and moral clarity. The sons of Seth remind us that authentic enhancement comes from spiritual maturity, wisdom, character, a heart aligned with divine truth, not merely from expanding capability or amassing knowledge. They lived as bridges between the earthly and the heavenly, empowered by relationship more than by machinery or genetic design. Contemporary research in consciousness points toward possibilities long hinted at in ancient texts, that human awareness may connect fundamentally with a deeper quantum reality, potentially recovering access to higher knowledge and healing capacities. Meditation, near-death experiences, remote viewing, and spontaneous healing, documented in recent studies, hint that the extraordinary capabilities attributed to the sons of Seth may lie latent within us, awaiting cultivation. Yet these potentials often appear only rarely and with significant sacrifice in our present world, suggesting that the environmental, spiritual, and cultural conditions that once supported their natural expression no longer fully exist. This realization has profound implications for education, healthcare, and human development. Educational systems, long divided between secular and sacred, fact and wisdom, might instead embrace integrated approaches that cultivate cognitive capacity, alongside moral and spiritual growth, recovering the holistic experience of learning that the sons of Seth likely embodied. Healthcare could explore consciousness-based healing alongside traditional interventions, activating the body's innate repair mechanisms. Politically and socially, the loss of the sons of Seth's spiritual authority has left humanity grasping for models of righteous governance and community. Their leadership was marked by wisdom, moral maturity, and service rather than power or coercion. Recovering such principles could guide the creation of governance systems centered on character and divine purpose rather than mere ambition or ideology. Environmentally, the ancient wisdom preserved by Seth's line reflected harmony with natural law and stewardship over creation. This contrasts sharply with modern exploitation driven by short-term efficiency. The urgent environmental crises facing our planet call for a renewed understanding of creation as a divinely ordered integrated system, prompting technologies and lifestyles aligned with sustainable flourishing rather than dominance. Perhaps most poignantly, the mental health challenges prevalent worldwide reflect a spiritual disconnection, the absence of a rooted identity and purpose grounded in transcendent truth. The sons of Seth exemplified psychological stability through direct, divine connection. Their example invites contemporary therapeutic approaches that recognize spiritual and existential dimensions alongside psychological and biological factors. As we face these multidimensional challenges, the choice before humanity echoes the ancient dilemma. Will we pursue advancement through divine wisdom and faithful relationship, or through autonomous ambition detached from spiritual foundation? The sons of Seth's legacy offers not just a cautionary tale, but a path toward restoration, a vision of human potential fully realized under divine guidance. This restoration is neither a nostalgic return to a lost golden age, nor a future realized solely through human achievement. It is a divine undertaking, a covenant relationship inviting cooperation with the Creator's unfolding purposes. The extraordinary capabilities of the sons of Seth, while seemingly beyond modern comprehension, reveal the possibilities inherent in human nature when aligned with divine truth. To navigate the future wisely requires interdisciplinary collaboration, melding biblical scholarship, archaeological insight, genetic science, consciousness studies, and theological reflection. Accepting both empirical evidence and revelatory wisdom can illuminate a path forward that honors our heritage and embraces our destiny. The story of the sons of Seth challenges each of us personally and collectively. It beckons us to recover lost human potentials not through quick fixes, but through patient, faithful restoration of spiritual connection. It calls educators, scientists, leaders, and seekers to forge new ways of knowing, being, and governing that serve the flourishing of all creation. As we close this chapter in our journey, remember that the disappearance of the sons of Seth is not the end of their story. Their legacy continues through every person who seeks to walk faithfully with God, to call upon the divine name with reverence, and to steward the gifts of wisdom, love, and knowledge as sacred trust. The choice is ours. Will we embrace this legacy, reclaim our highest potential, and build a civilization reflective of divine harmony? Or will we, despite the lessons of history, repeat the patterns that led to ancient ruin? The sons of Seth await our answer, with hope, warning, and the promise of restoration. Join the conversation. Share your voice. Pursue the divine connection that transforms not only lives, but the destiny of humanity itself. The future remains unwritten. Let it be shaped by wisdom born from the forgotten sons of Seth. If this message resonates, drop "restored" in the comments. Let us walk together toward a renewed humanity illuminated by the light of ancient truth and future hope. The story of the sons of Seth is far more than a forgotten genealogical line. It represents one of the most significant losses in human history, a loss not merely of a family lineage, but of an entire heritage of spiritual, intellectual, and cultural riches. According to biblical accounts and corroborating ancient sources, the descendants of Seth were a distinct group marked by extraordinary longevity, divine favor, and intimate communion with God, possessing remarkable abilities and wisdom that far surpassed normal human limitations. The biblical genealogies in Genesis provide not just a list of names, but a detailed record of lifespans and spiritual accomplishments unique to Seth's line, highlighting figures like Enoch, who walked with God and was taken without dying, and Methuselah, whose lifespan aligned intriguingly with the flood timeline. This pattern sharply contrasts with the genealogy of Cain's lineage, which is notably sparse, lacking lifespan details. This disparity suggests that ancient record keepers meticulously preserved Seth's lineage records, emphasizing their unique status. Archaeological and textual evidence from worldwide ancient civilizations supports the historicity of the sons of Seth. Tablets from Mesopotamia, including the Sumerian king list and the Epic of Gilgamesh, reflect similar genealogies and chronologies consistent with biblical accounts. The discovery of precise astronomical alignments in temple complexes like Göbekli Tepe, advanced crafts such as the Antikythera mechanism, and the remarkable construction techniques of Egyptian monuments further support the notion of a pre-flood civilization possessing advanced knowledge. Moreover, cultural traditions from diverse societies, from the Hindu Vedas describing a golden age with extended lifespans and divine communication, to Native American and Aboriginal Australian oral histories of wise, long-lived beings, converge in recounting themes consistent with the biblical narrative of the sons of Seth. This global uniformity in myth and memory suggests a shared historical core rather than independent invention. Genetic studies, similarly, point to a significant bottleneck in humanity's ancestry roughly 4,500 years ago, aligning with biblical flood chronology. This is consistent with the idea that only the pure genetic line of Seth's descendants, preserved through Noah and his family, survived the cataclysm that eradicated the corrupted lineages, including the Nephilim, the hybrid offspring of fallen angels and human women. The biblical and extra-biblical texts emphasize that these beings wrought a genetic and spiritual corruption that necessitated divine intervention. Post-flood, humanity's lifespans greatly shortened, spiritual communion diminished, and prior knowledge was lost or obscured, resulting in cycles of rise and fall in civilization and a persistent struggle to reconnect with the original divine wisdom. This disconnection led to fragmented governance, unstable social structures, weakening religious authority, and an educational system divorced from the underlying spiritual truths held by the sons of Seth. The spiritual bankruptcy of the modern world, coupled with its environmental and social crises, can thus be traced, according to the narrative, to this foundational rupture. Modern research in diverse fields further reveals that the extraordinary abilities credited to the sons of Seth, extended lifespans, advanced cognitive and spiritual powers, are not merely mythological. Examples include neurological studies of savants, reports from remote viewing experiments, quantum physics theories on consciousness, near-death experiences, and epigenetic evidence indicating the potential for dormant genetic traits to influence longevity and cognition. These findings support the possibility that humanity's lost potential may one day be recovered, echoing the generation-spanning spiritual depth that defined Seth's descendants. Importantly, the story serves as a warning and a guide for current and future technological and spiritual developments. Just as the sons of Seth faced adversities linked to the misapplication of supernatural knowledge, humanity today confronts challenging decisions about genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and the ethical use of consciousness-enhancing technologies. The narrative proffers that true human enhancement arises not from mere technical augmentation, but from restoring the spiritual connection to divine wisdom, emphasizing wisdom, character, and purpose over power and achievement. The call to action is profound. Humanity is invited to rediscover the sustainable spiritual framework once embodied by the sons of Seth, to integrate scientific discoveries with spiritual insights, and to pursue technologies and cultural developments that foster harmony with creation rather than domination over it. Recovery of these lost potentials through interdisciplinary collaboration across theology, archaeology, genetics, and consciousness studies holds the promise of transforming human destiny and fulfilling the original intent behind our creation. Closing the disappearance of the sons of Seth is not the end, but a chapter in an ongoing story of human potential. Their legacy persists, embodied not only in historical memory, but in the spiritual heritage accessible to those who seek authentic relationship with God today. The task ahead is to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past, embracing instead the wisdom and guidance necessary to navigate the extraordinary opportunities and risks facing modern civilization. If you would like, I can expand any sections further or prepare a more detailed version focused on specific themes such as ancient technologies, genetic implications, or theological reflections. Let me know how you wish to proceed. The enduring mystery of the sons of Seth is not merely a story about a lost genealogy or an ancient catastrophe. It is a profound narrative about what humanity once was and what it might yet become again. Understanding their disappearance invites us to confront questions far beyond history or theology. It challenges us to explore the very nature of human potential, spirituality, and destiny. As we reflect on the legacy of the sons of Seth, the path forward becomes increasingly clear. The restoration of the qualities they once embodied, extended life, deep communion with the divine, extraordinary wisdom, and supernatural capabilities requires a holistic approach. This approach must integrate spiritual renewal, scientific advancement, ethical responsibility, and cultural transformation. Spiritual renewal. The sons of Seth maintained their abilities through an unbroken relationship with God, a dynamic, living connection that shaped their character and opened them to divine knowledge. Today, spiritual practices such as meditation, prayer, and contemplative disciplines remain vital channels for reconnecting with this higher wisdom. Many modern practitioners who demonstrate remarkable cognitive or healing capacities affirm the potential for spirituality to unlock latent human faculties. Reclaiming this connection is an urgent call amid the fragmentation and secularization of modern society. Scientific advancement Contemporary discoveries in genetics, neuroscience, quantum physics and epigenetics increasingly reveal mechanisms through which latent human potentials might be activated or restored. The identification of longevity-related genes and brainwave patterns associated with heightened awareness supports the biblical portrayal of the sons of Seth's unique inheritance. Furthermore, quantum theories of consciousness suggest that mind and matter are deeply intertwined, providing a scientific framework for the ancient claim of direct divine human communion. Research efforts that bridge spirituality and science open new frontiers for understanding and enhancing human capacities without relinquishing essential human nature. Ethical responsibility. The story of the sons of Seth is also a cautionary tale about the dangers of misapplied knowledge and the importance of wisdom in guiding human advancement. The catastrophic consequences of angelic human interbreeding and the resulting flood serve as potent warnings against unchecked manipulation of genetics and technology. As humanity navigates the possibilities of gene editing, artificial intelligence, and consciousness enhancement, ethical frameworks grounded in humility, respect for life, and stewardship of creation are essential. The lesson of the sons of Seth implores us to pursue technologies that augment rather than replace our spiritual essence, and to ensure that progress serves shared flourishing rather than narrow ambition. Cultural transformation. The downfall of the sons of Seth led to the loss of institutional memory, wisdom traditions, governance principles, educational paradigms, and artistic expressions that supported a harmonious integration of the spiritual and material worlds. Rebuilding culture requires more than rediscovering knowledge. It demands cultivating values that honor the sacredness of life and the interconnectedness of all creation. Educational systems integrating contemplative knowledge, moral development, and ecological awareness can nurture holistic human development. Likewise, governance models inspired by spiritual authority, wisdom, service, and character could overcome the chronic failures of secular political structures. Environmental stewardship. The sons of Seth understood their world as an intricately designed creation, governed by divine law and meant to be cared for wisely. Modern environmental crises reflect humanity's alienation from this vision. Recovering sustainable relationships with nature entails recognizing the intelligence embedded in natural systems and aligning technological innovation with ecological balance. Lessons from the ancestral wisdom emphasize the dignity of the earth and the moral imperative to preserve it for future generations. The promise of restoration. The ancient story culminates not in despair, but in hope. Biblical prophecies foretell a time when humanity will once again live in harmony with divine intent, enjoying longevity, enhanced wisdom, and deep spiritual communion. The sons of Seth offer a prototype, a glimpse of humanity's intended destiny. Importantly, their disappearance is not permanent. Through a combination of spiritual awakening, wise use of technology, and commitment to restoring the moral fabric of society, the latent human potential represented by their lineage can be reclaimed. Today, we stand at a historic crossroads reminiscent of the period before the flood, with new technologies offering revolutionary possibilities and new risks echoing ancient temptations. The choices we make will determine whether we repeat the cycle of corruption or initiate a renewal of human greatness aligned with divine purpose. The sons of Seth beckon us to take up their legacy, not simply as a curiosity of the past, but as a vital mission for the future. They remind us that sustainable human enhancement is not about conquering nature or accumulating power, but about rediscovering the profound relationship between the Creator and the created. As you engage with this revelation, consider the role you might play in this unfolding story of restoration. Whether through personal transformation, scientific inquiry, ethical leadership, or cultural creativity, every effort to recover the wisdom and capacities once embodied by the sons of Seth contributes to a future brighter than the past. May the ancient legacy of the sons of Seth inspire us all to seek not only knowledge and power, but also wisdom, righteousness, and communion with the divine. In doing so, we step into the fullness of human potential and help usher in a restored creation, where heaven and earth are once again united.